Welcome to Lead with Linnea, where we talk about real leadership for real people in the real world. I'm Linnea Rader, and I've spent 2 decades in public service leadership. From accounting to my current role as the Director of Finance and Human Resources, I've seen pretty much everything. The spectacular successes, the painful failures, and everything in between that makes leadership both challenging and incredibly rewarding. Here's the thing. Leadership is not reserved for people with fancy titles or corner offices. Every single one of us can be a leader in our personal and professional lives. Whether you're managing a team of 50 or just trying to figure out how to navigate office politics, whether you're a frontline worker or sitting around a boardroom table, leadership skills matter. My approach? I skip the fluff and get straight to what really works. You won't find theoretical frameworks or feel-good platitudes here. Instead, you'll get practical, tested strategies from someone who's been in the trenches, made the mistakes, and learned the hard lessons so that you don't have to. Through Lead with Linnea, I provide leadership development training and coaching because I'm passionate about helping people discover their authentic leadership potential. And honestly, some days you need to laugh to keep from crying, and some days you just need someone to tell you the truth about what leadership really looks like. So whether you're listening while you commute, taking a walk, or just need someone to remind you that you've got this, I'm here for you. So let's dive in and talk about what it really takes to lead with authenticity, impact, and maybe a little bit of sanity. Ready? Let's go. From peer to boss, navigating your first 90 days as a new supervisor. Congratulations, you've just been promoted to supervisor. You probably feel a mix of excitement, pride, and if we're being honest, some serious anxiety. Yesterday, you and your friend Chris were talking about your weekend plans, and now today, you're preparing his job assignments. Yesterday, you were complaining about policies with your team, and today, you're responsible for enforcing them. If your stomach just did a little flip reading that or listening to that, you're not alone. The transition from peer to boss is one of the most challenging leaps in professional development, and those first 90 days will either set you up for success or leave you questioning whether you made a terrible mistake. In my 2 decades in public service, I've witnessed this transition countless times, both the spectacular successes and the painful failures. The difference between the two isn't luck or natural talent. It's understanding what this transition really requires, the changes you need to make, and having a roadmap to navigate it successfully. The reality check. What just changed beside your paycheck? Let's start with some truth-telling. Everything changed, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. You're still in the same building, working with the same people, dealing with many of the same challenges, but your role, responsibilities, and relationships have fundamentally shifted. You've moved from being responsible for your own work to being accountable for your team's results. You've gone from having one perspective, yours, to needing to balance multiple viewpoints, personalities, and priorities. Most specifically, you've transitioned from being one of us to being one of them in your former peers' eyes, whether they admit to it or not. This shift creates what I like to call the awkward middle. You're no longer a peer, but you don't really feel comfortable like a real supervisor yet either. You're caught between 2 worlds, and it's uncomfortable. The good news? This feeling is temporary if you navigate it intentionally. We are only talking about supervisory tasks today. We aren't covering the various work tasks you'll need to learn. Sorry, that's a whole different subject. So week 1 and 2, the foundation phase. Your first 2 weeks are crucial. Everything you do and don't do is being watched, analyzed, and discussed. Your former peers are wondering if you've changed. Your new boss is watching to see if they made the right choice. And you're probably overthinking every single thing you do. Have conversations. Your title changed. You as a person did not. While you're now a supervisor as opposed to just a work friend, you can't have the same conversations as you did before. However, Continuing to have conversations and letting your team know you're still human and aren't letting being the boss go to your head will take you far. So establish your communication style. Your team needs to understand how you operate. How will you discuss job duties? Will you meet with them every morning, once a week, once a month? If your team has questions, how and when should they contact you? When you need to make decisions, will you go it alone or will you communicate with your team and gather insight first? Have this conversation. In absence of facts, your team will make up the details. Fill in the gaps, answer the questions, provide that information. Don't assume they will just figure out how you operate and how you want them. Just tell them. Resist the urge to change anything. I know you have ideas. I know you've been watching things from the sidelines thinking, if I were in charge, I'd do this differently. But this is not the time to go turn everything on its head and change everything you touch. You need to understand the full picture first. And your team, they need some time to adjust to you as your supervisor before you start changing their world. Up until now, you've not had access to the full picture. The how and why decisions are made, why things are done certain ways. You need to learn first, then determine what needs changing. Then in weeks 3 and 4, we'll call that the observation phase. By week 3, the initial excitement and hopefully terror has settled a bit. Now, it's time to really observe and assess. This is when you start understanding the difference between how things appear to work and how they actually work. Identify the informal power structure. Every team has an informal hierarchy that exists alongside the official organizational chart. Who do people go to with questions when you're not around? Who influences group decisions? Who are the connectors, the resistors, and the innovators? Understanding these dynamics is crucial for your success. As a prior peer, you probably know the roadmap pretty well. But with your position change, that dynamic may have shifted as well. Start building different relationships. You need allies at your level and above. Begin cultivating relationships with other supervisors, department heads, and anyone who can help you understand the broader organizational context. These relationships will be invaluable as you navigate challenges and opportunities. Then weeks 5 to 8, the integration phase. By now, you should have a clearer picture of what your team's strengths, challenges, and dynamics look like. This is when you start making adjustments if they're needed and establish your leadership approach. Have the boundary conversation. This is often the hardest part of the transition, establishing new boundaries with former peers. You can still be friendly, but the relationship has changed. You can't be the person they vent to about upper management anymore because, well, you are upper management. You can't participate in gossip or complain about policies you're now responsible for implementing. This conversation doesn't have to be formal or awkward. It can be as simple as, I value our relationship, and I want to make sure we're both clear about how this needs to evolve now that I'm in this role. Implement your first changes. Now you can start making improvements, but do so thoughtfully. Choose 1 or 2 issues that clearly need addressing and will have a visible positive impact. Involve your team in the solution finding process. This shows you're listening to their input while establishing your role as a decision maker. Think if somebody walked in the door and started changing how you did your job without consulting with you. You'd hate it. So don't do that to your team either. If a change needs to occur, talk to your team. Talk about the problem or the issue. Then talk about potential solutions. Listen to their insight. This does not mean you have to use all their ideas. You're listening, and then you make the decision you feel is best. If you make a change, tell your team why. If they offered suggestions and you went a different direction, tell them why. While you don't owe them the nitty-gritty details, explaining your why will build more respect and buy-in. Establish regular feedback loops. Implement regular one-on-ones with team members and start providing consistent feedback. Many new supervisors avoid giving feedback because it feels uncomfortable, but your team needs and deserves to know how they're performing. Remember that this feedback should not only be negative, but also positive. If an error is made, acknowledge it and document it. If an amazing success occurs, celebrate it and document it. Now, weeks 9 to 12. We'll call this the leadership phase. By your third month, you should be settling into your role with more confidence. You've learned the landscape, established relationships, and begun making your mark. Focus on development. Start thinking about your team members' growth and development. Who's ready for additional responsibilities? Who needs additional training or support? Your success as a supervisor will ultimately be measured by your team's performance and growth. Build your own support system. Supervisory roles can be isolating. Build relationships with other supervisors who can serve as mentors, sounding boards, and sources of support. Consider finding a mentor who's successfully navigated similar transitions. Reflect and adjust. Take time to honestly assess your first 90 days. What went well? What would you do differently? What lessons have you learned? This reflection will guide your continued development as a leader. You're going to make mistakes or wish that you've done something differently. That's okay. Learn from it and then move on. So, common pitfalls to avoid. The friendship trap. Trying to maintain the exact same friendships and relationships with former peers. The relationships can remain positive, but they must evolve. The way you communicate has to change. The authority trip. Suddenly becoming rigid or overly formal to establish authority. Leadership isn't about power. It's about influence and results. If it starts going to your head, get a handle on it fast. The overwhelm response. Trying to do or fix everything at once. Learning the job takes time. Changes take time. Nobody put you in a position thinking you'd walk out day one and have everything down pat. Any changes you need to make will happen gradually to make sure they are sustainable. And finally, the isolation error. Cutting yourself off from your team because the relationships feel complicated. Stay connected while setting appropriate boundaries. So your 90-day action plan. Days 1 to 14, listen, learn, and observe. Talk to your team. Days 15 to 30, continue observing while beginning to understand team dynamics and organizational context. Days 31 to 60, start making strategic adjustments and establish your leadership approach. And days 61 to 90, focus on team development and building your own support system. Moving forward with confidence. The first 90 days as a new supervisor are intense, challenging, and crucial. But they're also an incredible opportunity to establish yourself as the leader you want to be. Remember, you were promoted because someone believed in your potential. Trust that judgment while remaining open to continuous learning and growth. Your transition from peer to boss isn't just about changing your title. It's about evolving your entire professional identity. Embrace the change. Be patient with yourself and others. And remember that great leaders aren't born. They're developed through experiences exactly like this one. The team member who is promoted alongside you or right after you is watching how you handle this transition. Your former peers are watching to see what kind of leader you could become. Most importantly, you're discovering what kind of leader you want to be. Make it count. So what challenges did you face in your transition from peer to boss? What advice would you give someone else just starting out in their supervisor journey? Share your experiences in the comments. Your insights could help someone navigate their own transition. Thank you for joining me today on Lead with Linnea. I hope something we talked about resonates with you and gives you a tool you can actually use in your leadership journey. Remember, leadership isn't about being perfect, It's about being intentional, authentic, and willing to keep learning and growing. You're going to face situations you never saw coming, make decisions that feel impossible, and sometimes wonder if you're cut out for this whole leadership thing. It's normal, it's human, and that's exactly why we need leaders like you who are willing to do the hard work. If today's episode sparked some ideas about training or coaching for you or your team, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at Linnea@leadwithlinnea.com or give me a call at 269-621-5282. Whether you're looking for one-on-one coaching, team training, or need someone to speak at your next event, let's talk about how we can help you and your people become the leaders your organization needs. You can find more resources, read my blog post, and learn more all about my services at leadwithlinnea.com. As always, carry social kindness with you everywhere you go. This world needs you and your positive mindset. Until next time, keep leading and keep growing.